Talk Radio. You're in to all things music.
Making it just means having this life that's full, that I see art in everything. I see art in the way my husband, prepares a salad. I see art in, teaching a little kid about drawing something. There's magic in all of that. And so because I see magic in so many things, I think that I've made it.
Welcome to Making It with Terry Woolman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Woolman.
Welcome to Making It with me, your host, Terry Woolman. I really appreciate so much you joining us every week. You can find all of our episodes on entertalkmedia.com, Spotify, and iTunes as a podcast at Making It with Terry Woolman. I created this show to focus on what it takes to have a lasting career in the ever-changing landscape of the music business. And I met our first guest today, or my guest today, when I first moved to Los Angeles in 1981. So, one of the joys of doing this show is being able to shine the light, not just on incredibly talented people in the music and entertainment industry, but also to shine the light on friends, people that I've traveled this road with and literally, traveled the road with, but also, supported each other and watched each other's career grows and families grow and shared our lives together. So with that, I want to tell you about my guest today. Grammy-nominated artist Perla Batalla was born in Los Angeles, California, and raised by a family immersed in music. Her father, a Mexican singer and DJ, her uncle, a renowned mariachi trumpet player, and an Argentine mother who ran a bustling Venice record store called Discoteca Batalla, which served as a hub for Latino culture and the Spanish language community in West LA. At 15, Perla left home to begin a music career, and she studied opera, performed jazz, country, soul, swing, and rock, but it wasn't until she began working with the legendary Leonard Cohen that Perla's career began in earnest. After recording and touring with Cohen for over a decade, Perla launched a solo career with Cohen's encouragement. Since then, she has recorded 7 albums, been featured in film and television, and performed and recorded with artists such as Lou Reed, Sonny Rollins, Katie Lang, Rufus Wainwright, Jackson Browne, Laurie Anderson, and countless others. Perla Batalla, welcome to the show. Hi.
You make me sound so successful and important. I love that.
Yeah. Well, that's
it's a
part
boost.
of right. Well, and thanks for spending the hour with us and nice seeing. It's really it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to lift you and boost you. Yes.
We started together. I mean, I really, I think back to what you said about how when you got to LA, we sort of met each other at the very beginning of our development as artists. And and I think we learned a lot from one another. And I remember those days of just, getting out there and going, well, let's try this. What about this? It was so much fun.
Yeah. And one of the things that I have observed about you and your career and your success and your life is that you are a very, you love collaborating. You really understand and appreciate the art of collaboration.
Well, and I think I saw that in you too in the early years, and boy, and Leonard loved it too. You know, I think back to being this open young person that just wanted to listen to every kind of genre of music and grab at things that really moved me and try to use them in what I was doing. I just feel so lucky in the day, you know, and I don't want to sound like an old person, but when we were growing up, radio was truly an open field full of any kind of genre being played within the same, you know, couple of hours of a DJ's time on the radio. And I think we were really fortunate because that's not how radio works anymore. However, the internet and, you know, the podcast world has opened up that kind of thing now. In a way, there's too much that you have to go searching for, but it's there if you're persistent.
Absolutely. You know, it really was a time where, regardless of genre, if it was good, it was likely you would get played on the radio.
Exactly.
You know,
and anyone had a chance.
Yeah. And even sometimes when it was not so good, you know, which occasionally irked me. But it really was, it was an open playing field for integrity and talent and vision. You know, if people were doing something interesting, it, you know, generally, as a matter of fact, your early years, you know, you got a lot of love from public radio like KCRW. You know, I remember
sure did.
Doing live performances with you on a lot of radio shows and
we did a mixture of all kinds of things. I mean, we were doing jazz, we were doing Spanish language, you know, we were doing Broadway tunes that we'd sort of put a new spin on. So we did a lot of really different. So it's so funny that in my career, you know, after doing that with you and you being so willing to try anything, I mean, it really helps when your musicians are behind you and are game, you know. And I felt like I surrounded myself with people like that. And it just made total sense that at some point in my career, I was going to meet Hal Wilner, who does, you know, the same kind of thing on a much bigger scale, but, and work with him and totally enjoy my collaboration with Hal because, boy, talk about someone who's completely open to whatever the world wants to hand him. You know, he's truly a master at that.
By the way, that song that we opened the show with is Cuckoo Paloma, which is a song that your dad used to sing to you when you were a little girl. Isn't that true? Well,
you know, I grew up in a family that my dad, Mexican, and my mom is from Argentina, but she's, you know, Hungarian Jew from the old country who arrived in Argentina during the war with her family and met my dad when she moved to LA and told everyone she was a Mexican. She lost her Argentine accent. I know, my white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed mom told everyone she was Mexican. Exactly, because she's like, you know, I want to be Mexican, and I love everything about the culture, the food, the people, the music, the poetry, and the art. And, you know, she was telling me as a kid, just always be proud of the fact that you're a Mexican because it's the most beautiful culture in the whole world. And it was just funny to me that she just, you know, would lie about her Argentine background and just say she was Mexican. And that just cracked me up. And I thought to myself, wow, you know, Mexican culture is awesome. And we, on Sundays, would get together with my uncles and my dad, and everybody would cook this fabulous food. And, you know, during the week when we were hanging out, we kids at home. You know, my dad was a big grump and was just like, I think, a terrible father in terms of, you know, he wasn't the dad, you know, you wanted to hang out with. He was a grump and he was yelling at us all the time. And my uncles were also big grumps. They would get together on the weekend and start to sing these songs that are, you know, from their country. And they would just start to weep. You know, they would sing all the lyrics with such passion, and they would really just cry because, you know, they missed their land, they missed their home. And I remember as a little girl just going, shoot, you know, music really is a magical thing. If these guys can turn into blubbering idiots on a Sunday afternoon by playing some songs, and this is really where it's at for me.
So I want to really begin our conversation with a quote of yours. And then we can, of course, but of course I want to talk about your family because that's so much of a part of who you are. And I've got questions about them as well.
Okay.
But I read I believe on your website that you said, I am grateful every day that I have the freedom to take chances and continue my own journey as an artist.
Oh, yeah. And there's another quote that I kind of just say to myself every day. It's a Rumi quote. He said, let yourself be silently drawn to the pull of what you really love. And, after I left that first tour with Leonard, I was offered other tours to go on. And, I went on one of them and actually had the worst time ever. You learn something from every experience, but I have to say, I think that Leonard ruined it for me in a way because I got to sing this. I got to sing this amazing music, and with Leonard, I am one of those people that love backup singing. I think there's a real art to it, and I adore it.
Yes, yeah.
However, I did not see myself as a backing singer for anyone else, but Leonard at the time because of we were partners. We were collaborators. It wasn't like, oh, we're the girls in the back that just kind of do the oohs and ahs. We felt like this team, this really well, in-tuned team that we just, it was a spiritual experience almost every night. Mm-hmm. So that I don't know that I was going to find with anyone else in terms of performance. And being I was offered a very good job with a very famous band, and I said no because I just couldn't see myself doing that. I said if I want to be an artist, I have to start. I have to take the risk, and it is a huge risk, as you know. When you're recording your own music and putting yourself out there, the risk is that you will not make money for a very long time. I mean, it is a very big risk. And, getting a great job with a band that's established and perhaps very famous, you can make really good money. Yes. So that choice is staring you in the face. And I just said, and also being pulled away from my family and my baby, I could not have done that. There was no way I was going to do that either. So the choice was clear for me. It's a difficult choice because you could help your family by making a good living, or you could take a risk by being, an artist, but also make your own choices. If you're an artist, you set your own schedule. You can be home when your kid needs to be at school, and you can sort of figure out what the best touring seasons are for you and make it happen. And luckily, my agent, Rachel Cohen, said to me, well, just do it. We'll start booking you, and you can say what you want to do. And so that was my choice. And I'm really happy I made it because I've always done what I feel really good about doing, and where I am pulled by that love that Rumi talks about. And that is what steers me to make my choices.
And speaking to that, because you just said that with a lot of clarity, but one of the things that I observed about you from being friends with you for so many years is you made a decision many years ago that you could have a successful career and a family. And you did. Oh. And you have.
Well, what the decision was, Terry, was that I was going to have, number one, a successful family and then a career. Yeah.
Got it.
That's always been my priority because, my family, as much as I honor them and love them, it was a hot mess, my childhood. So I was never going to let my baby feel insecure or feel like I had something else as a priority in my life. But she learned, she was part of it all. When we toured, because my husband, Claude Mann, was on a television show for 17 years, Dinner and a Movie. Right. So he...
And Claude, I want to interject. Claude is a chef and an actor, and an author as well. He's got cookbooks.
Yes.
And,
yeah, he's a wonderful writer.
Yeah.
So we said, we really had this family thing down because we were never going to be separated, and we would go on tour with me together. We all traveled together with me. And when he was on location or shooting, we traveled with him. So, this is not a way to, save a lot of money or to, but that wasn't our priority. Our priority was our family. So, she's now 24 in grad school. Hello? A little technical difficulty. Yeah.
Good. Wow.
Okay,
all right.
so,
a little musical entertainment.
A little interlude there.
And we're back.
So my daughter is now 24 in grad school, and I always wanted her to have, music and art. And this is always made very clear to her as part of her life, as companions that she could have forever, not as a career choice if she didn't want to. And that's not her career choice. She's she's studying public health and social work, which is what her passion is. So that's her field. But she's a musician, she's a writer, she's an artist, she's all those things. And she goes to the symphony, she goes to museums, and I'm a proud parent that's how she lives her life. I mean, I feel like she's this well-rounded, amazing person that also knows that her parents really loved her and gave her a strong foundation.
So here's my question about your family, your immediate family with Claude and Eva.
Yeah.
Having this wonderful husband and daughter in your life, how have those two people changed you?
Oh, gosh. Absolutely. For the better in every way. You knew me before them,
Sure.
And there's a selfishness that you have to have if you're like me, and I think you left home at an early age too. So
you and I have that in common, yes.
We do, and I think that's probably why we were drawn to one another early on. And there's this, especially for a woman, I had to be tough. I had to protect myself. I wasn't into drugs or booze or any of that stuff. I mean, I was going to really take care of myself. So what that meant, and I'm extremely fragile person. So I had to build an armor of protection. And, I think I was really tough. I was tough in so many ways and tough on people. And my expectations were very, kind of impossible sometimes. So with a family, and especially a husband who has so much compassion and love and understanding for me as an artist and as a person, Claude is extremely accepting of me, and yet strong enough to say, oh, wait a second. That doesn't work for us. You need to rethink that, and in a very strong way. So I have learned to definitely be, way more open and feel safer. So I can be more open. Early on, I also made a decision, as you know, that not to work with assholes. So I cut a lot of that, and I have really stuck to my guns on that one. If somebody is rude or or they just do anything that I think is inappropriate or not kind, I'm out of there. And
I applaud you for that. That's been it's been great to watch you keep that as a very basic part of your journey. You don't want to be surrounded by assholes. Yeah. And be disrespected.
Also, that also comes from being someone that has to take care of yourself because, that's taking care of myself, to not put myself in a position to be hurt or, to be treated badly. So that was something that I really focused my attention on. And actually that's something my daughter lives by and my husband does too, because Claude is like one of the kindest people on the planet. So, You know, we do, and we're firm about that. If someone is just not a good person, we steer away from that.
It's a great piece of advice for artists and pretty much anybody to live by if they can, and or not if they can. You know, it's a choice.
Yeah,
it's really a choice.
Yeah,
and it comes with challenges, but the reward of living, living with integrity, really, and truth.
Yeah, and but truth be told, though, Terry, there's if someone is an extremely talented asshole, and you think, that, and you see that, and it's clear, and then there's something you can learn from them. There, you can make that decision or cross that bridge when you come to it, because that has also been the case on occasion when you just say, "Oh my gosh, okay, well, this is an opportunity that I must take, and I know it will be difficult, and I know there will be, occasions that I have to protect myself." But, not to be like, it's just not black and white. There are some gray areas that you can go into.
And a lot
if it's going to help you grow.
Yeah. Then it's a good thing to do, to consider.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, I've certainly have followed that creed, and you've seen me work with in many a situation that was filled with challenges, or people might not have been the nicest, but I saw that there was a win in there for me. To go in and turn it into something that was going to bring me value, artistically, financially, personally, emotionally, whatever, so I agree with you that, it's good to remember that it's not black and white.
Right. And, because also what we're doing is so intimate. Music, art, it is a very intimate practice. Even with an audience, it's an intimate practice. And you have to realize, that being vulnerable is an asset as an artist. So here you are putting yourself out in this vulnerable place. So, what you have to do sometimes, and you learn this as you get older, is, if it's difficult, if you have a rough patch or you're faced with some kind of a hardship in that moment on stage, or with musicians, or with, even audience members or whatever, you have to figure out how to get over it. You do have to figure out how to get to the other side as quickly as possible, hopefully, and not let it change you.
Not let it change you. Has that path always been really clear to you, or have you had bumps and unexpected experiences that you really were completely unprepared for?
Oh gosh. Oh yeah. There are times when that I remember I couldn't get over something that had happened. It would eat me alive for a long period of time, and more so now than ever, because right now I'm doing a lot of Leonard Cohen, which is very raw still. After his passing for me,
which has not been that long. It's been less.
It has not been that long, and I miss him every day. And we were in touch very a lot. We were sending texts back and forth to each other on a regular basis. So him not being in my life is a big deal. And I go out and I sing these House of Cohen concerts, and my practice is to be as open as possible, and to conjure him up in the room and to sing to Leonard, and often, every time I actually do end up feeling his presence, and it's a very strong and it's a very powerful experience for me, and it's part of my grieving process. And in many ways, sometimes I feel very selfish about it, but it is my process. And so I do feel like I'm just but I oftentimes, it's 99.9%. The audience is with me. We are one entity, and it is palpable, this feeling of joy because of this music that gives so much and is constantly evolving. I mean, a Leonard Cohen song, which I thought meant something to me, 25 years ago, means something completely different today. And a phrase or just a couple of words that I have sung hundreds of times will hit me. And so much emotion will hit me that when I first learned of his death and I was in Spain, I asked my friend Mark, who plays bass for me in Europe, I asked, how am I going to ever sing another Leonard Cohen song? Because I can't. I'm just going to cry. I'm going to just cry at the thought of it. And then he said, just do what we Spanish do. We sing and we cry at the same time. And that hit me really hard. And that gave me the strength to go out and do this concert and keep doing it and keep showing up as that open soul.
As you're sharing that story, I'm looking at the words that you posted on your website that Leonard wrote in his last text to you. Oh. And it's speaking exactly to that. Do you remember what the words are, or shall I read it?
You say them, because I'll misquote for sure.
It said, "Sing for the people. So much suffering. You have the power to heal. Nighty night, old friend." So you're following Leonard's wishes, in a sense, a promise that you made to him that you would continue to keep his music alive.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm crying right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you do such a beautiful job of holding, Leonard's music and his words, because a lot of people do know this, but other people don't, that he was a poet laureate, not just for his melodies, but for his lyrics, that there are people. I'm remembering when you and I went to Red Deer, Canada, to a Leonard Cohen conference to perform, and I was astounded at that people from all over the planet came that were intellects and poets and artists that were there to not just honor him, but and Leonard was alive. He just had asked you to go on his behalf to perform and to talk, and I was thrilled and honored to go, learn the music and go perform it with you. But I didn't realize, and I grew up on Leonard Cohen also, I didn't realize how highly respected he was as a poet until
well, he was a poet first. Definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was a famous poet at a very young age in Canada. So he tells this funny story of, having to leave Canada because that's what he was known as, a poet, period. And he had this desire to write songs. So he came to New York and he, started hanging out at those folk bars and meeting people like, Peter, Paul, and Mary and Bob Dylan, and I think Jackson Browne was probably around there too, and Judy Collins, and, just started singing his songs. And boy, it didn't take long for people to realize that this person had something really special. And Judy Collins was already signed to a big label and immediately said, I need to record a couple of your songs. So, she put Leonard on the map right away. And, and what cracks me up is that he said she invited him to come and sing at this little fundraiser. And he thought, well, okay, no problem. Turns out it was the Newport Folk Festival. And there were like thousands and thousands of people on stage. And he walks out on stage after she introduces him. And he sees this ocean of people and walks right off stage. He was just terrified. He was terrified. And he said that his manager was back there, and the manager said, Leonard, what's the problem? And Leonard said, Marty, I can't sing. And his manager said, none of you guys can sing. I want to hear singers. I'll go to the Met.
Right. That's a great story.
And do his job. And I think that too, I certainly am not the best singer, and I don't have.
But I want to interject. You're a trained singer.
Well,
I mean, you studied opera, and you have the versatility. You can sing rock, pop, jazz.
I can sing a lot of things. Thank you for that. But I honestly, I don't necessarily use my technique to sing how I sing. I just use my body, and I know how not to hurt myself. Maybe that's, that's certainly, I'm not practicing any of those styles of singing. I just sing from my heart. And I think that's what the point is I'm making, is that Leonard, I honestly thought to myself after that first tour that I did with Leonard, I said, no one else could possibly sing a Leonard Cohen song after seeing him night after night after night, and watching what a master he was as an artist. I said, no. Only Leonard for me. That's just it. I can't imagine anybody singing a Leonard Cohen song.
Let me ask you something, because you used the word master, and I read that when you worked with Leonard, when you first started with him, you watched as if you were watching a master. And I'm wondering, what was the most important lesson that you learned from Leonard, both as a performer and also on a personal level?
Well, that's very clear. And I've been clear on this for a really long time. Leonard just showed up, and I show up as who I am, as how I'm feeling, as everything that I am today. I walk on stage. That's who you're going to get.
Right.
You just show up,
truth.
and I hate using, being in the moment because that's cliche to me. But you're right. Just to tell the truth. And, and that's like the last, verse of Hallelujah, when he says, I did my best, but it wasn't much. I couldn't feel, so I learned to touch. I told the truth. I didn't come to fool you. And even though it all went wrong, I'll stand before the Lord of song with nothing on my tongue but hallelujah. That to me is everything. Like, you just show up, and you just, it's like a meditation. It is. That's exactly what it is. And, he was that too. He was the master of Zen practice. So he knew how to do that.
That's so beautifully said. And thanks for sharing the closing part of that lyric, because it's so profoundly powerful and true. And it's a really great example of the clarity that Leonard was able to find, in his writing, and in his solitude and in his meditations and travels.
Well, and right. And you said in his solitude, there was a lot of solitude in his life. I mean, he sacrificed everything that we all take for granted, our relationships, the loves of our lives. We have these rich lives with a lot of things. And honestly, Leonard sat in a room writing and rewriting a lyric and rewriting and taking that and rewriting that, because he had to reach a certain level. And, and with that kind of devotion came a huge sacrifice.
Yeah. So let's take a little walk down memory lane as to your early recording career as an artist. My recollection of you getting signed to your first major label deal was when Discovery Records label exec Jack Holtzman came to hear you play at a small LA club called Genghis Cohen. And I know there was more to the story than that. But I wanted to know what's your recollection of that story, or what, how did you get that first deal from your point of view? And I'm asking in the context of that, back then, the goal, for most people was to get signed to
get a record
label.
deal.
It was to get a record deal so you could get your music out there. It was kind of early in the game of people being independent artists. So you got signed to a major.
Early in the game. Yeah, it was a major. That was shocking to me. I had come off the road. I had just come off the road. I think, was it? I had done a tour with Leonard, so it was after the first tour.
Think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And I moved to San Francisco because Claude was going to chef school. And all my friends in LA were telling me that I am just cutting off my career, that I'm, killing it and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, this is something I need to do. And I was really happy I did that, because while in San Francisco, I started to write. And Leonard was incredibly supportive of that. I was working in jazz clubs to make a living, and then just started to write lyrics. And I found a wonderful friend who wrote with me, Paul Cantillon, of the Wild Colonials, and now he's composing for films and stuff. But he, lovely guy, and we were very, very close. And so we just wrote like a ton. And finally, my stuff got to Jack Holzman, who was such a lovely human being. And I had no idea what an icon he was in the world of music. No idea at all. I just knew that I loved him. He was so sweet. When I met him immediately, I just said, oh, I just want to hang out with this guy. He has great stories. He's a lot of fun. And he valued what I was doing, even though I felt like I was a real novice at songwriting. But he valued what I was doing, and I was also committed to my, bilingual roots, and I wanted to have the Spanish language in my recording, and it was very early on in that sort of embracing of world music.
Right, it was not hip at that point.
It was not, and I was getting people at the record company fighting me on that issue, and I said, no. This is who I am, whether you like it or not. This is who I am. And Jack insisted, that I sign with him, that he would do right by me, and he certainly did. I mean, he let me do whatever I wanted on that first record, and I was pregnant, as you recall, and I just felt like it was, to me, it was one of the most beautiful, free experiences, And whether it succeeded or failed did not matter. I was doing what was my truth at the time and what I was really passionate about. So it was just, I remember it as just an absolutely lovely experience.
And you have no regrets, right, about your choices with that first record?
None. Good. None whatsoever. And the second, and we were getting ready to do a second album. And they started to hire song finders. This person was very famous, John Grierson, who was lovely. Also, we became friends.
He just passed away recently. Sweet guy.
Oh, sorry to hear that. I didn't know. Yeah, I loved John. And he, had found Tina Turner's big hit comebacks, and he was looking for songs for me, and he found some beautiful songs, and then he found some that were not so beautiful he said, but it's a hit song. And I said, well, I can't ever imagine having to sing those words over and over again if it is a hit song.
For the rest of my life.
And Don said, but Don agreed. He said, oh, absolutely. Do not sing anything that you're not going to want to sing a million times after it becomes a giant hit. Right. And I remember one of the songs that I absolutely hated was a huge hit, and I forget her name, but it was the song "Torn." And I just thought, no. I am not a woman like on the floor weeping over some guy. That's not me. So not going to happen. So at that point, it just got to be that they were totally grooming me for absolute fame, and I was losing sight of being an artist.
Right.
So that's when I had to leave and just do, and say, I'm going to do my own thing. And we parted ways very, it was friendly, no problem. But I did meet some great people through that experience. And I think I have to say, in retrospect, it was a really good experience, and I stuck to my guns. Yeah.
You sure did. Yeah. I remember watching you do that, and I thought, well, that's a courageous move, to stay true to your heart and your vision, and good, for you.
Yeah.
I thought it took courage.
I have to live with myself. It really didn't take courage. I knew what the right thing to do was, and people say courage is only when you're torn between those two things, fame, and money,
right,
or the artistic freedom. And to me, artistic freedom is way more valuable. Sure, I don't own stuff. I don't have a fancy car. I don't, own a house, but I can honestly say that I'm happy. I can honestly say that I have what I want. I didn't have a career that destroyed my marriage or my family because I had to be out on the road all the time. Looking back, I'm very happy with my decisions.
Well, and I
still have a career. I make my living doing this. So
you sure do. You make your
that.
living doing what you love standing in your truth. You have a beautiful family. You travel the world.
Yeah.
And you still you collaborate. You're writing with David Bateau. You always have these wonderful partners that you create music with, and so it's all work.
Terry, I have a really cool project I'm doing right now. I don't know if you remember John Cody. He's a fabulous writer. Has worked with Larry Klein. And Larry Klein produced John Cody's album that did pretty well in the United States, but he's a Canadian singer-songwriter. And we became friends because both our records came out at the same time, and we were sort of doing this performing circuit, following each other around a little bit. And we became friends. And then I remember when I moved to Ojai that I would always bring my friends to LA when he was playing to see him, because not only were his songs fantastic, but he was a fabulous, hilarious performer. And we always had a great time when we went to see John Cody. Well, over the years, we became better and better friends. And I have worked with him a little bit. And then recently, a few years ago, he got very sick with cancer. Also, he was a phenomenal singer, but the cancer took his vocal cords. And he doesn't have the voice anymore, but he's still writing some of the best songs I've ever heard. And his voice, instead of just being this angel voice, is now kind of Leonard Cohen-y in that gravelly, horror voice. And so we've been writing this project together that I'm really excited about.
I can't wait to hear that.
I know it's going to be something really special.
Well, by the way, just so people can find that when it comes out, basically people can find you and your music at perlabatalla.com, correct? Is that the best place?
And Instagram and Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
So by the way, we will post all of those links on the site, the Intertalk Media site, along with this conversation. So all of our listeners, you can go easily find Perla and hear her music that she's been releasing all these years, but also the up and coming, really exciting projects. I want to go a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you.
No, I just want also to say that we have a PBS special coming out live from Freight and Salvage. That great club in Berkeley, in Oakland. Mm-hmm. They recorded my House of Cohen, and so that's going to be coming out soon. So keep an eye out for that.
That is fantastic. That's
I know,
fantastic.
It's really exciting.
Please, when that's out, let me know so that I can post that on all of my.
Thank you. I will.
My media
definitely
channels too, as well. So
Great,
we were talking about your first record on Discovery Records, but I want to go a little bit further back than that.
Sure.
Which is that before that you actually recorded, and I worked with you on it, an independent live album.
That's right.
of beautiful jazz standards in San Francisco with
I know,
with engineer John Cunnaberti. And I'm wondering, I mean, I think I know the answer to this, but what gave you, we're back to the word courage. What gave you the courage to do that in a time when most artists were waiting around for a major label deal, not only to raise the money and make your own record on your own, but to do it live, which was really thrilling and came out beautifully. Yeah.
Well, because, I still record live because that's how I, that's how I love to do it. I think there's a magic that happens when you're recording live that simply doesn't happen. You have to sort of make it up, or you have to be an actor if you're going to do it not live in a way.
Right.
If that makes sense to you, you have to create a moment of I don't know, spontaneity. And I just don't know how you do that. I'm not that good an actor. So I feel like live is my magic. It's my magical spot. So, so the reason I did that, it was this beautiful coming together of things. Like my grandmother gave me a little money, and instead of saving it, like she said, oh, save it or invest it. I'm like, I'm going to go do a session, and spend all my money on that because that is what was important to me. So, John, in San Francisco, I got the free studio time at that beautiful studio. And then I flew all of us up there and we'd been working together. So I thought the band sounded really good. And I felt like, this was the time to do it. And it was a great experience, and it was hugely educational, for me as an artist, and a producer to do that. And I felt also that, it was just one of these magical things. We all go to San Francisco. We're away from what we're used to. And everyone there was a bit of excitement in the air about that. I think that
there was
the show in the music. Yeah. It was beautiful.
Yeah. There was electricity, on that recording and that whole experience.
And you remember it was like before all that digital stuff. So like they were splicing like tape together to get the good takes and stuff. I thought that was amazing. That was the olden days for sure.
Somewhere out there's photos of us floating around with, I remember like just being exhausted and holding up, reel to reel 2-track.
Yes. I gotta dig those out. Yeah. Those are great. Yeah.
We've got about 10 minutes left in our conversation, and there's of course so much more I want to ask you, but I do want to make mention that back to your versatility as an artist. I just want people to know that you've performed and recorded with groups like Was Not Was, Katie Lang, Jennifer Warnes, Angel and the Reruns, which was a fun group in the 80s that you ended up doing some on-camera, feature film performances. You worked with one of the guests that we've had on the show, award-winning film composer Miriam Cutler, with her group Swing Street,
Miriam. Yeah,
which is how we first met, and
that's
also,
how we met. Yeah,
at Vine Street Bar and Grill. But one of the fun memories that I have of obscure, amazing things that you've done is you sang a duet with Ted Nugent. And I remember that because I was the guitar tech on that. So, I ended, which I never do, but it just seemed like such a wacky thing to do that I went with you to tune his guitars.
I'm so glad you witnessed that. Yeah. Because, that'll never happen again.
Right. But I mean, it speaks.
Was too loud.
Oh, it was so loud. It was just, it was painful. It was literally painful.
So, you know way too much about me.
but I do, my well, and likewise, so, but one of the things about that was that I remember, cause you're known for your beautiful ethereal singing and world music and speaking and singing your truth. And here you are, just peeling the paint off the walls, singing really a hard rock tune for a feature film. Yeah. And you definitely, you threw down. So, there's, so there, your training, certainly shows up, to be able to do that. By the way, how do you stay healthy, physically on the road, like vocally, physically, spiritually, emotionally?
Yeah, it's really hard because people want to hug you. They want to just, everybody just, you bond so much from the stage that people just come up and they all want to hug you. And so getting sick is almost, it's impossible not to get sick, and you're going to get sick on the road. So I'm going to get sick. I just have to hug people. But I feel like it's really important to get enough rest, and you don't often do that. I try my best, but I do get sick on the road, and then I, come home and Claude has to put the pieces back together. But I just generally live a good life in terms of I exercise, I eat good food. I mean, I really try not to eat too much junk, and and don't talk so much. That's the one thing I told Leonard before he left on his last tour. Just don't talk, especially because since he was doing night after night, I just said, get in the car and go home right after the concert. Do not stick around to chat. And he did. He really followed instructions. But I don't have that luxury because I have to say hi to people, and sometimes that's what'll get you.
Do you have favorite teas, honeys, throat sprays, bag of bag of tricks that you bring with you?
Well, I swear by like peppermint tea, mint, any kind of mint tea without caffeine, no tannins. I try not to drink a glass of red wine until the last couple songs because tannins kind of suck moisture out of your vocal cords. So I like to do the opposite, like just herbal stuff that will coat your throat. I mean, Jennifer Warnes told me once, eat potato chips because, the salt will coat your throat and the salt brings circulation, and that makes sense. So I eat potato chips to help get my throat kind of lubricated.
Great.
If I'm suffering a little bit, but mostly just lots of warm liquid. Not too hot, just warm liquid and water. No lemon, because then you'll be like spitting all over the stage. If you have lemon in your water while you're on stage, it creates way too much fluid. Sorry, is that oversharing?
No, it's perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to know. In our last 5 minutes of our conversation, I want to get to our closing questions. The first one is a two-part question. Since the show is called Making It, what does making it mean to you, both personally and professionally? And the second part of the question is, can you share 3 tips for success that have driven your career?
Okay, the making it, it's so wide open for a bunch of jokes, of course, but I won't go there.
You can. You wouldn't be the first. Actually, I think Bruce Valanche really took it the furthest when I interviewed him.
No, I would never try to follow Bruce. Yeah, forget it. He's the king. He's the king of funny. But I'm sorry, what was the first question?
What does making it mean to you, both personally and professionally?
Well, that's easy. As I've stated already, making it just means having this life that's full, that I see art in everything. I see art in the way my husband, prepares a salad. I see art in, teaching a little kid about drawing something. There's magic in all of that. And so because I see magic in so many things, I think that I've made it. I think my life is a happy life because I get to sing. That's a passion I cannot live without. If I don't sing and time goes by, I start getting a little crazy. So that's something that I have to do. My body has to do that. So because I have that in my life, and I have dear friends and truly, share beautiful meals with loved ones that we can sit around and have a conversation, that to me means I've made it.
And 3 tips for success that have driven your career. What do you think you could share with our listeners?
Just be true to yourself and be okay with saying no. And then be okay with saying yes to things that might be uncomfortable, but could lead you to a place that might open up your world.
And my final question is, at this point of your life, with everything that you know to be true, what would you tell your younger self?
Boy, I wouldn't have no advice. I thought, boy, I'm just so proud of myself for kind of how things have unfolded in my life. I would say perhaps, be a little more, as a younger person, just be a little more compassionate towards others. But other than that, I feel like I've been, pretty wise and pretty sensitive, and for a gal out there on her own, I made some choices that were pretty scary, but I did it. I mean, I feel like I was a kind of a fearless young person who looked fear in the face and said, here we go.
Yeah, I can see why we've been friends for so many years, because I feel the same way, and
I know.
And, again, I mean, kind of heading out, leaving the nest at 15 to go sing in clubs and study opera. That's a bold move. Whether it felt like it or not at the time, it's a bold move.
Yeah. Yeah. A baby-faced 15-year-old. Yeah. No, I was very, I thought I was, thinking back, I think I was very brave. I faced a lot of very scary things as a young person, and I came out okay. And I just don't know that I'm responsible for that. I think there could have been some divine intervention that, the reason that I'm here today. And I'm just grateful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm grateful too. And, and this is probably a good time to, here's a very, very short story that of course,
don't make me cry again. Okay, Terry.
But, we only have 30 seconds left to do this.
Okay. Yeah.
But, you were a big part of the impetus for me recording my first album, Bimini, because you had a day job at the time. You were also an artist and singing in clubs, but you were working at somebody's office, and you came to me with an envelope with $1,000 cash and handed it to me. And I said, "What is this for?" And she said, "Because it's time for you to make an album. You go out, find the rest of the money. I know you'll pay me back someday." And that album happened because you pushed me off the ledge with the start of that. And I thank you so much for that, because
I love you so much. I was just so happy to do that. Oh, thank you for saying that.
It was a really beautiful gesture, one I've never forgotten, and I'm grateful for it. Perla, thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for your music and just being you. And I really appreciate you. I want everybody to go check out Perla Batalla. And you will, you won't regret it, because there's so many things that you do, and you do it with a lot of heart and a lot of truth. So I appreciate it.
Thank you, Terry. This has been so wonderful.
From me as well. Thanks for spending the hour with me, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you all next week. Take care.
Tune in again next week for another great episode of Making It with Terry Woolman.